why do you think America or the West more generally is so appealing to Jamaicans in real life and the Jamaicans in your writing?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The West has been sold to us as a fantasy. So we watch a lot of television. That was where it happened, the media. We watched soap operas set in the United States and also in the UK as well. And we always, it was like, oh my gosh, these people have beautiful homes and cars. And, there's a fantasy around that. And if you're of a certain class, especially a working class Jamaican, looking at that, you're staring at London, you're staring at New York City, and you're seeing the snow, and you want to be a part of that life, that fantasy, that storyline. And so that, you probably save up everything that you own to go there to achieve that. But then realizing when you get there that it's not, the cold is no fun. Snow is definitely not something to relish in. Especially if it's January and it's or February and it's brick cold. So those things that we find out too late, but at the same time, most of us, it's a fantasy that we latch on to, sold to us by the media for the most part. Yeah.
What role do immigration and imperialist biases towards countries and people like Jamaica and Jamaicans play in your writing, and in Patsy especially?
Yeah. So Patsy, one of the biggest roles in that is that, usually when we have immigrants coming from certain countries like Jamaica, for example, it's kind of hard to set up or to have the same opportunities or be on the same level playing field. We are not the ones being asked to come here to do, well, let me take that back, because there was a time when most of our nurses were being recruited and most of our teachers were being recruited to go to various countries to teach and probably be granted certain visas. But for me, writing a working class Jamaican woman like a Patsy, who does not have that kind of education, it's really hard for her to even have that opportunity. In the book itself, I did write that she is a math genius. So surely Patsy would have been one of those people the tech industries would love. But because she didn't have the right credentials, there was no way that she could come here. I keep on saying coming here, going to the US and being asked to do anything in the tech industry or even get a fellowship at MIT or Harvard. So I wanted to really also document that as well with this one character.
I think when you say come here, and even though you're in the UK right now,
yes.
It's not that different.
Right,
so,
exactly.
There may be some small differences, but I think in terms of immigration and recruiting people,
yes.
It has been largely similar.
Exactly, yes.
So the NHS here, for example, obviously, there's lots of people from overseas that have come and built it, especially after the war. So,
yes,
yeah, it's quite similar. Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about the scene when Patsy goes to apply for her visa, and the things that she says, and how did you feel when you wrote those scenes? Was that quite painful? Because I think many readers will be able to relate to the experiences Patsy had, because I have not experienced the same things, but I know of people who have told me, and when I read those scenes, I was like, wow, okay, it has not changed. It's almost
same.
Universal.
Yeah.
So can you expand a bit on that and what you were trying to achieve?
Yeah, I wanted to show how hard it is to get a visa out of the country, especially an American visa. And a UK visa is even harder, I was told as well.
Oh, yeah?
Right, exactly. So I wanted to document that because, again, when I read immigration, the immigrant experience in literature, I never saw the how they actually got to the place, like what was behind them coming to America or the UK. And I wanted to document that in terms of her standing in that embassy line, what it's like standing in that heat. So showing that desperation, the fact that the sun was bearing down on them and they were still staying true to leaving the island, because that's the thing. Again, coming back to class, given that working class Jamaicans feel like the country does not care about us, there's no infrastructure for us to become upwardly mobile, most of us turn to the United States or the UK. So to stand in that line means that your whole life depends on it. And so for me to take the reader through that process was important for me to show that this is a very serious situation. This is Patsy's destiny, or this is her taking control of her destiny. But at the same time, it could have been taken away from her in a minute if that man had stamped denied in her passport. And so I wanted to show that desperation that many of us want to get out of the island, no matter how beautiful our beaches are, or how the subway would advertise "come to Sandals." If we can't make money for our children to eat or send them to school, then it's not worth living there. And so that's really what I wanted to achieve by writing that scene.
And the American man at the embassy also said that he doesn't understand why Jamaicans are leaving this paradise.
Exactly.
Being so tone deaf and ignorant.
Right. Yeah, and I get that all the time. And again, there's another scene like that too in Patsy, where the woman says to her, "Oh, you must be, like snow, like you're coming from a beautiful country. Kind of like, what are you doing here then?" And that question, like, what are you doing here? And without even thinking that people don't just leave their country willy-nilly just because, there's always reasons behind that. And so it was really important for me to really pack in that complexity, like why we had to leave in the first place, why Patsy had to leave, and also in my personal essays, why I had to leave in the first place as well.